Explain the ethical considerations when selecting behavior modification techniques for aggressive dogs. Why is it important to avoid aversive methods, and what alternatives should be prioritized? Answer. Behavior modification techniques for aggressive dogs must prioritize the animal's welfare and psychological health. Aversive methods, such as shock collars, physical punishment, or intimidation, can escalate fear and aggression, leading to long-term emotional harm and worsening behavior. The AVSAB position statement on punishment strongly advises against using punitive approaches, citing evidence that they compromise welfare and often suppress behaviors temporarily without addressing the root cause. Alternatives to aversive methods. Positive reinforcement. Reward desired behaviors, e.g., treats, toys, to encourage repetition. Counter-conditioning. Gradually change the dog's emotional response to triggers by associating them with positive outcomes. Desensitization. Expose the dog to triggers at low intensities, gradually increasing exposure to build tolerance. Management. Modify the environment to prevent the dog from being exposed to triggers until training resolves the issue. Research highlights that humane methods foster trust and long-term behavioral improvements. MS. Taylor, an animal behavior consultant, is approached by a client who requests aggressive behavior modification for their dog using shock collars. MS. Taylor practices in a jurisdiction where such tools are prohibited. What legal and ethical actions should MS. Taylor take to address the client's request? Answer. MS. Taylor must comply with local and federal laws prohibiting the use of shock collars. Her response should involve educating the client, explain why shock collars are illegal, and provide evidence from behavioral science demonstrating their negative effects. Offering alternatives. Suggest humane and lawful methods like positive reinforcement, counter-conditioning, and environmental management. Documenting communication. Maintain records of the consultation and her professional recommendations to ensure transparency and protect against liability. Professional integrity. Adhere to the AVSAB Code of Professional Conduct, which requires consultants to prioritize animal welfare over client demands. Legal frameworks such as the Animal Welfare Act and specific local ordinances reinforce the prohibition of harmful training tools. Violating these laws could result in penalties, loss of licensure, or reputational harm. MS. Taylor must balance professional ethics with legal compliance. Describe the advantages and limitations of using ethograms in behavioral assessments. Provide an example of how an ethogram might be used to evaluate resource guarding in dogs. Answer. Advantages. Standardization. Ethograms provide a structured framework for recording specific behaviors, ensuring consistency across assessments. Objectivity. Detailed descriptions reduce subjective interpretation. Comprehensiveness. Capture a wide range of behaviors for in-depth analysis. Limitations. Time-intensive. Developing and applying ethograms requires significant time and expertise. Context sensitivity. Behaviors may vary in different environments, requiring careful calibration. Example, resource guarding. An ethogram for resource guarding might include behaviors such as stiff body posture, growling, lip curling, and snapping. A consultant could use the ethogram to document the frequency and intensity of these behaviors during controlled tests involving food or toys. This data helps identify triggers and develop tailored behavior modification plans. What are the ethical obligations of an animal behavior consultant when faced with a situation where the client's practices conflict with animal welfare principles? Answer. Consultants are ethically obligated to advocate for the animal, prioritize the animal's welfare, guided by the 5 freedoms in the AVSAB Code of Ethics, educate the client, use evidence-based explanations to persuade clients to adopt humane practices, refuse unethical practices. If a client insists on harmful techniques, the consultant should refuse to provide services that compromise animal welfare. Document the case, maintain records of all interactions to ensure accountability, and provide a basis for follow-up if needed. In severe cases where animal welfare is at risk, reporting to local authorities or animal welfare organizations may be necessary as mandated by the Professional Responsibility Guidelines of AVSAB. Dr. Carter records a dog's interactions at a shelter to assess fear-related aggression. The dog lunges at visitors approaching its kennel but relaxes when given space. What steps should Dr. Carter take to analyze the video and propose a management plan? Answer. Dr. Carter should frame-by-frame analysis, review the video to identify the specific triggers, body language, and context of the lunging behavior, and use scoring systems, apply standardized behavior scoring tools, e.g. ladder of aggression, to quantify stress signals, interpret triggers, note patterns such as proximity or visitor behavior that escalate aggression, develop a plan, Propose a plan including environmental management, barriers or signs to reduce visitor interactions, positive reinforcement training for calm behavior, and counter conditioning to change the dog's emotional response. Dr. Carter must ensure interventions comply with welfare guidelines, emphasizing stress reduction and humane practices. Why is it critical for consultants to involve clients in behavior modification planning, and how does this align with welfare first principles? Answer: involving clients in behavior modification planning is essential for achieving lasting results. When clients are actively engaged in the process, they are more likely to follow through with the plan, making the training more effective. By educating the client, consultants also empower them to understand and apply humane techniques consistently. This collaboration ensures that the animal's needs are at the forefront of the intervention, aligning with welfare first principles. The AVSAB best practices recommend that behavior consultants involve clients by providing clear, actionable steps that the client can implement. This helps foster a sense of responsibility, and by understanding the rationale behind the methods, clients are more likely to provide the animal with the appropriate care. Moreover, involving the client helps ensure that solutions are tailored to the specific animal and home environment, addressing behavioral issues in a way that respects both the animal's and client's needs. By fostering a relationship built on trust and education, consultants ensure that they are promoting long-term animal-friendly solutions that emphasize positive welfare outcomes over punitive methods. How can standardized tests like the SAFE Safety Assessment for Evaluating Rehoming Protocol help assess a dog's suitability for adoption? Answer: the SAFE Safety Assessment for Evaluating Rehoming Protocol is an important tool for evaluating a dog's behavior, particularly in the context of adoption. It helps identify whether a dog is likely to behave safely and appropriately in a new home. The protocol includes assessing aggression, fear responses, sociability, and other behavioral traits that could affect the dog's ability to adapt to a new environment. The primary benefit of using SAFE is its predictive validity. It provides insights into how the dog will respond to common household situations, which can help determine whether it poses a risk to the new owners or other animals. It also helps identify dogs that might require additional behavior modification or training to improve their chances of successful adoption. By using SAFE, behavior consultants ensure that the adoption process is safe for both the dog and the new family, preventing situations where dogs are returned to shelters due to behavioral issues. The results from SAFE can guide consultants in recommending additional behavioral support or modifying the environment before rehoming, ensuring the best possible outcome for both the animal and adopter. MS Nguyen is evaluating a cat's stress levels using a behavior tracking app. The app flags increased pacing and hiding. What should MS Nguyen consider when interpreting these results? Answer: MS Nguyen should consider several factors when interpreting the behavior tracking app's results. First, increased pacing and hiding can be indicative of stress, but they may also be caused by environmental factors. She should investigate any recent changes in the cat's environment, such as new pets, visitors, or changes in routine which could be contributing to the observed behavior. Next, MS Nguyen should consider the app data in the context of her own direct observations. Combining technological data with first-hand observation allows for a more accurate and holistic understanding of the cat's behavior. For example, if the cat is pacing but also engaging in other activities like eating or playing, the stress may be less severe than if the pacing is accompanied by signs of severe anxiety or fear. Lastly, MS Nguyen should look for patterns over time. A single instance of increased pacing may not be as concerning as consistent long-term data suggesting ongoing stress. In response, she should adjust the environment to reduce stressors, such as adding hiding spots, providing enrichment, or using calming pheromones. By using the app as a tool and supplementing it with her observations, MS Nguyen can make informed decisions about the cat's care. Discuss the ethical implications of recommending rehoming for an aggressive pet. Answer: recommending rehoming for an aggressive pet presents several ethical considerations. The primary concern is the safety and well-being of the animal, as well as the potential risk to other people or animals in the new environment. Before suggesting rehoming, the behavior consultant should ensure that all efforts to address the aggression through behavior modification have been exhausted. This may include training, environmental management, and other interventions that can help the pet improve its behavior. Rehoming should be considered a last resort when it's essential to ensure that the new home will be capable of meeting the animal's behavioral and emotional needs. The consultant must be transparent with the client, explaining the risks and challenges involved in rehoming an aggressive animal, while also offering alternatives, such as seeking help from a more experienced owner or trainer. Furthermore, the consultant should ensure that the new home understands the pet's behavioral challenges and is committed to working on them. Ethical responsibility involves both protecting the animal from potential harm and ensuring it has the opportunity for a stable, fulfilling life. What elements should be included in an informed consent form for a behavior modification plan? Answer: an informed consent form is a crucial document that protects both the consultant and the client by ensuring that all parties are aware of the potential risks and responsibilities involved in behavior modification. Key elements that should be included in the form are description of methods, a clear explanation of the specific behavior modification techniques that will be used, such as positive reinforcement, counter-conditioning, or desensitization. This ensures the client understands the process and expectations, risks and benefits. The form should outline the potential risks, such as temporary exacerbation of behaviors before improvement, as well as the anticipated benefits. Client responsibilities. Clearly define the client's role in implementing the behavior plan, including consistency in training and any required changes to the home environment. Consultant's liability. It should specify the limitations of the consultant's responsibility, such as the recognition that the success of behavior modification can depend on the pet's temperament and the client's adherence to the plan. Explain the role of facial expressions in canine communication and how they indicate emotional states. Provide examples of how misinterpretation can lead to behavioral issues. Answer: facial expressions are crucial in canine communication, helping dogs convey emotions such as aggression, fear, or happiness. A dog's face, especially around the mouth and eyes, displays these emotions clearly. For example, bared teeth accompanied by a growl signals aggression or a warning to back off, while lip-licking without food often indicates anxiety or submission. A dog with wide eyes or the whale eye is likely fearful or uncomfortable. Misinterpretation can lead to problems. For instance, when a dog showing a whale eye is approached, it may feel cornered, increasing the likelihood of defensive aggression. Similarly, misunderstanding a dog's relaxed face as a sign of submission rather than contentment can lead to mishandling or failure to recognize potential stress signals. Correctly interpreting facial expressions promotes a healthier relationship between the dog and its human companion. Positive reinforcement training and desensitization techniques are effective in helping dogs become more comfortable with human interactions, avoiding misunderstandings and reducing stress-related behaviors. How do social hierarchies function in wolf packs, and what lessons can be applied to managing multi-dog households? Answer: social hierarchies in wolf packs are integral to maintaining order and cooperation. The hierarchy is typically led by an alpha pair who set the direction of the pack and ensure that resources such as food are shared appropriately. Lower-ranking wolves respect the dominance of those above them, reducing conflicts. Social behavior is reinforced through subtle signals like body posture, vocalizations, and eye contact. Dominance is not solely about aggression, but about maintaining stability and control through body language and interaction. In managing multi-dog households, this understanding of hierarchy can prevent conflict. Dogs, like wolves, tend to establish a pecking order, and when this hierarchy is respected, it leads to fewer fights. Owners should observe subtle dominance behaviors, like one dog consistently claiming a bed or being the first to eat. Intervening only when these behaviors escalate to aggression helps maintain peace. Dogs should also be trained with positive reinforcement, fostering cooperative behavior rather than competition for dominance. By respecting natural pack dynamics, owners can avoid misunderstandings and behavioral issues. Training sessions should focus on calm authority without using force, as dogs respond well to clear, consistent leadership. Discuss the role of play behavior in juvenile animals and how deprivation of play can affect long-term behavioral development. Answer: play behavior is essential for the development of social, cognitive, and motor skills in juvenile animals. It helps young animals practice vital survival skills such as hunting, grooming, and problem solving. For instance, predatory play in young dogs, such as stalking or chasing, prepares them for hunting in the wild. Similarly, social play with siblings or peers teaches bite inhibition and social boundaries, important for future interaction with other animals and humans. Deprivation of play during critical development stages can lead to long-term behavioral issues. Without sufficient play, juveniles may struggle with socialization, leading to anxiety, aggression, or difficulty forming bonds with other animals or humans. In particular, rats deprived of play exhibit cognitive deficits and poor impulse control. Studies in various species, including primates and dogs, show that play deprivation leads to emotional and behavioral disturbances. For example, infant monkeys deprived of social play later showed increased aggression and lower cognitive function. Ensuring that juvenile animals have ample opportunities for appropriate play in safe, enriched environments is crucial for their emotional and psychological well-being. Veterinary behaviorists often recommend structured play as part of early behavioral interventions. Define stereotypies in animals. How can environmental enrichment mitigate these behaviors in captive settings? Answer: stereotypies are repetitive, abnormal behaviors that occur in animals, often without an apparent purpose. These behaviors, such as pacing, spinning, or chewing, are often linked to stress, frustration, or confinement. For example, zoo animals like tigers may pace incessantly, a behavior typically caused by limited space and lack of stimulation. Similarly, stereotypic feather plucking in parrots is commonly observed in captivity due to boredom or stress. Environmental enrichment aims to address these behaviors by offering stimuli that encourage natural behaviors. For instance, providing climbing structures for primates or foraging opportunities for parrots can redirect their energy into more constructive activities. Enrichment helps reduce stress by mimicking the animal's natural environment, offering mental and physical stimulation. Scientific studies support the effectiveness of environmental enrichment in reducing stereotypies. For instance, introducing interactive toys in zoos has been shown to reduce pacing in elephants and big cats by up to 60%. In addition to enrichment, increasing the animal's space and ensuring social interactions with conspecifics can also alleviate stress and reduce stereotypical behavior. Sarah, a first-time dog owner, notices her rescue dog, Max, cowering in a corner and avoiding eye contact after guests arrive. She attempts to pet Max, but he snaps at her hand. What should Sarah do, and how could she have better managed this situation? Answer: Sarah's dog, Max, is exhibiting fear-based behavior in response to unfamiliar guests. Max's cowering and avoidance of eye contact signal stress and anxiety, typical signs of fear in dogs. Sarah should immediately recognize these stress signals and avoid forcing interaction with Max. The snapping behavior is a defensive response, signaling that Max feels threatened and unable to escape. What Sarah should do: first, remove Max from the stressful situation, either by confining him to a safe room or providing a quiet space where he feels secure. Over time, Sarah can desensitize Max to guests by introducing new people slowly and associating their presence with positive reinforcement, such as treats. She should also observe Max's body language to ensure that signs of stress are addressed before escalating into aggression. How Sarah could have managed better: introduce guests in a controlled manner, allowing Max to approach them on his own terms. Avoid direct eye contact, which can be perceived as a threat by fearful dogs. Sarah can benefit from consulting a veterinary behaviorist for a comprehensive behavioral plan. Explain the role of pheromones in feline communication and how synthetic pheromones can be used to manage behavioral issues. Answer: pheromones are chemical signals that play a significant role in feline communication. Cats release pheromones through various glands located around the face, paws, and tail, which convey messages about territory, social bonding, and stress. For example, when a cat rubs its face against furniture or a person, it is marking the area as familiar and safe. Urine marking, on the other hand, is often used to assert territory. Synthetic pheromones like Feliway mimic these natural pheromones and are used to alleviate behavioral issues, especially stress-related behaviors like territorial marking and aggression. When sprayed in the environment or used in diffusers, synthetic pheromones can promote a sense of calm, reducing anxiety and encouraging positive behaviors. For example, Feliway has been shown to reduce spraying and scratching in cats by up to 90%. Scientific studies show that pheromone therapy can improve the behavior of stressed or anxious cats in homes or shelters. These pheromones help cats feel more secure and reduce the likelihood of fear-driven behaviors. How would you distinguish pathological pacing in a horse from contextual pacing? Answer: pathological pacing in horses is a repetitive behavior that serves no functional purpose, often arising from boredom, stress, or confinement. This type of pacing is usually constant and occurs without any external triggers, such as food or social interaction. Horses with pathological pacing often show a lack of interest in their environment, and the behavior persists despite efforts to provide enrichment or mental stimulation. Contextual pacing, on the other hand, is a natural response to external cues. For example, a horse might pace in anticipation of feeding or while waiting for a human to enter its stall. Contextual pacing tends to stop once the stimulus, such as feeding time, is resolved. To distinguish between the two, observe whether the pacing is connected to specific triggers or whether it continues without change. Horses displaying pathological pacing often show signs of distress, such as weight loss, poor coat quality, and irritability. In contrast, contextual pacing will usually subside once the environmental conditions change. Interventions for pathological pacing include increasing environmental enrichment like larger spaces and social interactions and addressing any underlying health issues. What is the significance of the play bow in canine social interactions? Answer: the play bow, a behavior where a dog lowers its front end while keeping the rear raised, is an important social cue in canine communication. This posture signals that the dog is engaging in friendly, non-threatening behavior and invites interaction, often signaling a willingness to play. The play bow is typically followed by movements like chasing, jumping, or gentle pawing, all intended to encourage the other dog or human to engage. This gesture is especially important in puppy socialization and can help prevent misunderstandings. When a dog extends a play bow, it signals that it does not intend to engage in aggressive behavior. Dogs that are unfamiliar with each other often use the play bow to initiate friendly interaction and test each other's temperament. The significance of the play bow lies in its ability to reduce tension and foster social bonding. Canine behaviorists often recommend encouraging play bows in puppy training to promote healthy socialization with other dogs. Guideline: the American Kennel Club Act recommends teaching puppies appropriate play behavior using positive reinforcement. How does fear affect the immune system of animals? Answer: fear can have a profound impact on an animal's immune system. When an animal experiences fear or stress, it triggers the fight or flight response, which involves the release of hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. While these hormones are essential for short-term survival, prolonged exposure to stress can lead to immunosuppression, weakening the animal's ability to fight infections. For example, in laboratory studies, rats subjected to chronic stress showed reduced immune function, making them more susceptible to disease. Similarly, dogs that are consistently exposed to fear-inducing situations, such as aggressive interactions or isolation, may experience a weakened immune system, making them more prone to illnesses like upper respiratory infections. Managing fear through behavioral interventions such as desensitization, positive reinforcement, and creating a calm environment can help mitigate the negative effects of stress on the immune system. Ensuring an animal's physical and emotional well-being is key to supporting overall health. How do body language and scent marking complement each other in canine communication? Answer: in canine communication, both body language and scent marking serve as essential tools for conveying messages. While body language, including tail position, ear movement, and facial expressions, provides immediate and direct signals to other dogs, scent marking offers a more permanent form of communication. Dogs use scent marking, such as urine marking, to establish territory, communicate their presence, and signal mating availability. For example, a dog with a raised tail and stiff posture might be displaying dominance or confidence, while a dog who marks an area with its urine is sending a territorial signal to other dogs. Together, these behaviors help to define social hierarchies and ensure clear communication among dogs, particularly in multi-dog households. Scent marking can also reinforce body language signals. The dog may approach another dog with submissive body language, and upon marking the area, it may demonstrate confidence through upright posture. This combination of body language and scent marking ensures that the dog communicates effectively in different social contexts. How does heritability impact the development of fearfulness in dogs, and how can veterinarians differentiate between genetically inherited fear and fear due to environmental factors? Answer: heritability refers to the proportion of a trait's variation attributed to genetic differences. Fearfulness in dogs is partially genetically influenced, with studies showing some breeds have a higher tendency for fear-based behaviors. Breeds like the Border Collie or Sheltie may show greater fear responses due to genetic predisposition. Environmental factors such as inadequate socialization, traumatic experiences, or poor early life exposure also play a significant role in shaping behavior. Veterinarians can differentiate the two by assessing a dog's behavior history through interviews with owners and evaluating experiences, e.g., age at adoption, exposure to stimuli. Tools like CBARC help identify patterns of fear, distinguishing between genetically driven responses and learned fears. Genetic testing for behavioral traits may also be considered. Additionally, behaviors influenced by genetics often have a consistent expression across various contexts, whereas environmental fears are more context-dependent, varying with specific triggers. Understanding the interaction between genetics and environment allows veterinarians to devise tailored interventions, such as behavior modification or medication. Explain the importance of orthograms in the documentation of behavioral problems and provide an example of their use in aggression analysis. Answer: Ethigrams are systematic catalogues of observed behaviors essential for documenting and analyzing animal behavior. In assessing behavioral problems like aggression, an ethigram helps identify the specific actions and context in which aggression occurs. For example, in a dog exhibiting aggression towards strangers, an ethogram might include behaviors like tail position, ear movement, vocalizations, and body posture. It tracks the frequency and duration of these behaviors in response to specific stimuli such as a person approaching or doorbell ringing. This systematic documentation allows for the differentiation between various types of aggression. Fear territorial or predatory. By noting the context in which aggression manifests, ethigrams also help monitor behavior over time, ensuring that interventions are based on clear, objective data. This approach minimizes human bias and enhances the reliability of assessments. By mapping out behavior patterns, veterinarians can diagnose the underlying causes of aggression and tailor interventions like desensitization or counter-conditioning. Ethigrams, along with structured assessments like the CBARC or SAFE, test allow practitioners to create individualized treatment plans. Dr. Patel is evaluating a line of border collies bred intensively for herding. The owner reports high levels of compulsive chasing behavior even in non-herding contexts. How should Dr. Patel approach the case considering the breeding history? Answer: Dr. Patel should begin by reviewing the breeding history to assess the possibility of inbreeding or line breeding, which often amplifies undesirable traits like compulsive chasing. Border collies, bred for intense herding instincts, may develop excessive chasing behaviors if traits are passed down without proper attention to behavioral moderation. Dr. Patel should interview the owner to gather information about the dog's environment, training, and daily routines, documenting any repetitive behaviors or contexts in which the chasing occurs. A thorough behavior history and assessment of genetic predisposition are critical in identifying if compulsive chasing is a genetic trait amplified by selective breeding. Testing for genetic markers of behavioral traits could also provide valuable insight into the animal's predisposition. In addition, behavior modification techniques such as positive reinforcement or counter-conditioning could help redirect the dog's energy toward more acceptable behaviors. Dr. Patel may recommend a long-term strategy involving environmental enrichment and consistent training, in addition to considering the broader implications of selective breeding practices on behavior. Lastly, collaboration with breeders to introduce genetic diversity or reconsider breeding practices could mitigate compulsive behavior in future generations, aligning with AFSAB's ethical breeding guidelines. Compare the strengths and weaknesses of video analysis versus in-person observations for diagnosing behavioral issues in companion animals. Answer: both video analysis and in-person observations have distinct advantages and limitations when diagnosing behavioral issues in companion animals. Video analysis allows for detailed, repeated review of behavior, ensuring that subtle behaviors, such as signs of anxiety or aggression, are not missed. It is particularly useful for rare or context-specific behaviors like separation anxiety that may not occur during an in-person observation. Additionally, video analysis is beneficial when evaluating animals in environments where the veterinarian cannot be physically present. However, video analysis lacks the real-time interaction and environmental context that can be crucial in understanding the full range of an animal's behavior. In-person observation provides a dynamic, real-time view of behavior, allowing the observer to adjust stimuli or environments to elicit specific reactions. It also allows for the interpretation of subtle behavioral cues that may be influenced by the observer's presence, such as social anxiety or fear responses. However, the veterinarian's presence could alter the animal's behavior, particularly in more anxious or fearful animals. Combining both methods provides a comprehensive approach to behavioral assessment. The AVSAB recommends this integrated approach, especially for complex or multifactorial behavioral issues. How does the CBARC tool help in differentiating between aggression driven by fear and territoriality? Answer: the CBARC, Canine Behavioral Assessment and Research Questionnaire, is a standardized tool used to assess a dog's behavior, focusing on factors like aggression, anxiety, and fear. It includes questions designed to help differentiate between fear-based aggression and territorial aggression by evaluating the context in which aggression occurs. Fear-based aggression. CBARC measures behaviors related to fear, such as snarling, growling, or biting when the dog is confronted with unfamiliar situations or people. This type of aggression is typically triggered by perceived threats, often leading to defensive behaviors like retreating or avoidance. Territorial aggression. In contrast, territorial aggression is often directed at specific people or animals, invading the dog's defined space. Home yard. Dogs exhibiting territorial aggression are more likely to demonstrate consistent protective behaviors when intruders are within their territory. Bark assesses these behaviors through questions about the dog's reaction to visitors or new animals entering the home. The questionnaires' results enable veterinarians to pinpoint the underlying cause of aggression, which is critical for developing effective interventions. Why do terriers often exhibit higher levels of prey drive compared to herding dogs, and how should this influence training strategies? Answer: terriers have been selectively bred for hunting small game, emphasizing traits such as high energy, independence, and a strong prey drive. Their genetic predisposition for prey-driven behavior manifests as a strong desire to chase and capture moving objects, which often extends beyond typical play. In contrast, herding dogs, such as border collies, were bred for cooperative behavior with humans, focusing on control and direction rather than chasing. Training strategies should account for these breed-specific traits. For terriers, training should focus on impulse control and channeling prey drive into constructive activities like fetch or agility. Positive reinforcement for non-chasing behaviors can help mitigate unwanted actions. For herding dogs, training should emphasize obedience and working alongside humans using cues like stay or comma to manage herding behavior. Understanding these genetic traits helps ensure more effective training. The AVS-AB emphasizes the importance of breed-specific behavioral traits in developing individualized training plans, ensuring that the dog's natural instincts are understood and properly managed through reinforcement-based techniques. What are the key elements of a structured questionnaire for identifying antecedents to separation anxiety in dogs? Answer: a structured questionnaire for identifying antecedents to separation anxiety focuses on gathering detailed information about a dog's behavior and the circumstances surrounding the anxiety. Key elements include baseline behavior, questions about the dog's typical behavior when the owner is home, including any signs of anxiety or distress, separation context. The questionnaire should ask about the owner's departure routine, e.g., picking up keys, putting on shoes, to identify any triggers that might signal impending separation. Behavior during absence, documenting behaviors observed when the owner is away, such as barking, whining, destruction, or elimination. Post-return behavior, describing the dog's behavior upon the owner's return, which may include excessive excitement following the owner around or clinginess. Owner's routine, investigating the consistency of the owner's daily schedule and the length of time spent away, as dogs may develop separation anxiety with unpredictable or long absences. Ms. Thompson reports that her cat hisses and swipes at visitors but is calm with household members. She has provided a video of the behavior. How should the veterinarian interpret this data? Answer: the veterinarian should start by analyzing the video to identify the specific triggers causing the cat's defensive behavior. The cat's hissing and swiping are likely signs of fear or territorial aggression, but the behavior's context, whether the cat is approached, suddenly cornered, or reacts to certain cues, will provide insight into its motivation. The fact that the cat behaves calmly with household members suggests that the aggression is context-dependent, and the veterinarian should rule out medical causes for irritability. Fear-based aggression may be more likely, as the cat displays defensive behaviors towards unfamiliar visitors. The veterinarian can look for visual cues such as body posture, tail position, and ear movement to determine the level of fear. This observation aligns with behavior patterns commonly seen in cats, particularly those not well socialized to strangers. Desensitization and counter-conditioning techniques can help the cat associate visitors with positive experiences, reducing fear-based aggression over time. The veterinarian may also recommend an environmental assessment to ensure that the cat has safe spaces to retreat to when feeling threatened. How can desensitization be applied to a dog with noise phobia, and what role does counter-conditioning play in this process? Answer: desensitization involves gradually exposing the dog to the feared stimulus, e.g., loud noises at a low intensity, allowing the dog to become accustomed to it without triggering a fear response. For a dog with a noise phobia, this could mean playing recorded sounds of fireworks or thunderstorms at a very low volume, gradually increasing the intensity over time. The goal is to reduce the dog's sensitivity to the noise. Counter-conditioning plays a key role in associating the feared stimulus with positive experiences. For example, while exposing the dog to low-level sounds, the trainer might give the dog treats or engage in play, creating a positive association with the noise. Over time, the dog learns that loud noises predict rewards, shifting its emotional response from fear to a more neutral or even positive one. Both techniques are used in tandem to modify behavior, and positive reinforcement ensures the dog remains calm during exposure. This gradual control process, as outlined by AVSAB, helps the dog tolerate the feared stimulus without resorting to avoidance or aggressive behavior. What strategies would you recommend for managing a dog's food aggression based on its behavioral history and environmental triggers? Answer: managing food aggression requires a multifaceted approach that includes modifying the dog's behavior during feeding and adjusting the environmental triggers. Key strategies include environmental management, avoiding situations where food aggression could occur by feeding the dog in a calm, isolated space without distractions, desensitization, gradually introducing the presence of people or other animals during feeding. Start by standing at a distance while the dog eats, gradually moving closer over time. Positive reinforcement, reinforcing calm behavior during feeding with treats or praise. This can help the dog associate people near its food with positive outcomes. Controlled handling, teaching the dog to accept handling of its food bowl through training exercises that involve adding food or gently touching the bowl while the dog eats, rewarding calm responses. By addressing both the dog's behavior history and environmental context, these strategies help reduce the likelihood of food aggression. Collaboration with a certified behavior consultant is often recommended for more severe cases.